Welcome, truth seekers and reality benders, to the inaugural episode of Living Witness. I'm Josh.
And I'm Sara. We're thrilled to finally be launching a project we're both incredibly passionate about.
Living Witness is a podcast dedicated to exploring the truly inexplicable. We delve into real-life testimonies from individuals who claim to have encountered extraterrestrials, otherworldly beings, or experienced events so profound they fundamentally shattered their understanding of reality. These aren't just stories. These are personal accounts of events that have left an indelible mark on those who lived them.
And that's where the living part of Living Witness truly comes in. We believe these experiences, no matter how strange or unbelievable they may seem to some, are valid and deserve to be heard. My background in ufology lore and my fascination with a wide array of fringe topics have shown me that there's a vast unexplored territory just beyond the veil of our everyday perception.
Absolutely. My approach tends to be a bit more analytical. I'm fascinated by the details, the consistencies, the psychological impact, and the questions these testimonies raise. Here's how our journey together will unfold each week. Every Monday, I'll kick things off with an opening monologue and a warm greeting, setting the stage for what's to come. Then, the core of our Monday show will be the dramatized testimony itself. We'll bring these powerful accounts to life, allowing you to immerse yourselves in the experience as it was relayed to us.
Following the testimony, Josh and I will then embark on what we call a deep dive. This is where we'll dissect what we've just heard, analyze the various elements of the account, discuss its potential implications, and I'll often bring in historical or thematic parallels from the rich tapestry of ufology and other fringe studies.
Now, it's important for you to know how you can access all of our content. Our Monday shows, featuring the powerful dramatized testimonies, will always be available for free wherever you get your podcasts. We believe these stories need to be shared.
However, for those of you who want to go deeper, to really explore the nuances and join a community of like-minded individuals, we offer a subscription. Our deep dives, where Josh and I spend considerable time analyzing and discussing each testimony in detail, are exclusive to our subscribed members.
And that's not all. Paid subscribers will also receive a bonus show every Friday. These episodes will vary, sometimes interviews, sometimes discussions on related phenomena, or even revisiting past testimonies with new insights. Subscribers also gain access to a private chat room, a dedicated space to discuss episodes, share your own thoughts, and connect with fellow listeners. Plus, you'll have a dedicated page where you can submit questions directly to Sara and me, or even, when appropriate and with their consent, to one of our witnesses. Now, something we need to emphasize with the utmost seriousness is the paramount importance of witness anonymity here at Living Witness. The decision to share these deeply personal and often unsettling experiences is a courageous one. To ensure the safety, privacy, and peace of mind of those who entrust us with their stories, we have stringent measures in place. Privacy in our digital age seems straightforward until you realize that 87% of people who experience extraordinary phenomena never report it, primarily due to fears their identity will be exposed. Today, we're exploring why protecting anonymity isn't just about names, it's about preserving truth itself.
That statistic really hits home. In my research, I've seen how fear of exposure prevents crucial stories from being told.
You know what's fascinating? The parallel between witness protection in these cases and whistleblower protection in investigative journalism. Both deal with high-stakes information that could fundamentally change someone's life if their identity is revealed.
That's an interesting comparison. How do you see those protection mechanisms overlapping?
Well, in both fields, we're dealing with sophisticated digital footprints that can reveal identity. For instance, just last year, 3 witnesses were identified through metadata in their original email communications, even though their stories were published anonymously.
That's actually terrifying, and it shows how traditional anonymization methods aren't enough anymore.
Exactly right. And here's what's really concerning. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are making it increasingly possible to identify patterns in anonymized accounts that could reveal sources. We're seeing cases where AI can cross-reference public data with anonymous testimonies to narrow down potential witnesses.
So if we're dealing with such advanced technological challenges, what methods have proven most effective in maintaining anonymity?
Let me break this down into 3 crucial layers. First, there's the technical protection, encrypted communications, secure data storage, and careful metadata scrubbing. Second, we have narrative protection, changing specific details while preserving the core truth. And third, there's temporal protection, carefully managing when and how information is released to prevent correlation with other events.
You know what's particularly fascinating about this? The psychological impact of guaranteed anonymity on witness testimony.
Oh, that's exactly what I wanted to get into. Studies show that witnesses who feel completely secure in their anonymity provide up to 60% more detailed accounts of their experiences. They're more likely to include elements they might otherwise withhold out of fear or embarrassment.
That makes perfect sense from a human psychology perspective. When people feel safe, they're more willing to be vulnerable.
And here's where it gets really interesting. We've found that implementing a multi-stage anonymization process actually improves the accuracy of accounts. When witnesses know their identity is protected through multiple layers, they focus more on recalling details accurately rather than worrying about what might identify them.
That reminds me of a case study where a witness's account was compromised because they changed too many details in an attempt to protect themselves, ultimately making the story less credible.
Um, yeah, that's what we call over-anonymization. It's like wearing so much disguise that you become more noticeable. The key is finding that sweet spot between protection and authenticity.
Speaking of authenticity, how do you maintain credibility while protecting sources?
Well, we've developed what we call the triangle verification method. Instead of directly verifying witness identity, we verify three independent elements of their account: environmental conditions, concurrent events, and physical evidence, without compromising their anonymity.
That's fascinating. Have you seen this method adopted in other fields?
You know what's interesting? This approach is now being used in some investigative journalism outlets. They found that our method of protecting sources while maintaining credibility actually works better than their traditional approaches.
I imagine digital security must play a huge role in all of this.
Like you wouldn't believe, we're now using quantum-grade encryption for initial contact with witnesses, and we've implemented what we call digital noise, creating false trails and decoy data to protect real information.
That level of protection seems intense but necessary in today's connected world.
Consider this. In the past year alone, there have been over 300 attempted breaches trying to identify anonymous witnesses in high-profile cases. Not a single one succeeded where proper protocols were in place.
Those numbers really drive home the importance of robust protection measures.
And here's what keeps me up at night. We're seeing an increasing sophistication in attempts to unmask witnesses. It's not just curious individuals anymore. We're dealing with organized efforts using advanced technology.
How do you stay ahead of these evolving threats?
We've actually formed a coalition with cybersecurity experts and privacy advocates to continuously update our protection methods. It's like an arms race. As identification technology advances, our protection measures have to evolve even faster.
That's really encouraging to hear about that level of commitment to witness protection.
You know what's really interesting? We're starting to see positive spillover effects in other fields. Medical researchers are adopting our anonymization protocols for sensitive patient data, and social scientists are using our methods for protecting vulnerable study participants.
It sounds like this work has implications far beyond just protecting witnesses of extraordinary experiences.
Absolutely right. And here's the key takeaway. Protecting anonymity isn't just about keeping secrets. It's about creating safe spaces for truth to emerge, whether that's in witness testimony, scientific research, or journalism.
Looking ahead, what do you see as the biggest challenges in maintaining anonymity?
The rise of artificial intelligence and quantum computing presents both our greatest threat and our greatest opportunity. We're developing new protection protocols that actually use AI to predict and prevent potential identification vectors before they emerge.
And that's quite a forward-thinking approach to the challenge.
And you know what? It's working. Our latest data shows a 94% increase in witnesses coming forward when they know these advanced protection measures are in place. That's nearly double the number of accounts we were receiving just 2 years ago.
Those numbers really demonstrate the impact of proper protection protocols.
Looking ahead, I believe we're entering a new era where the ability to protect anonymity will become as crucial as the ability to uncover truth. The future of understanding extraordinary experiences depends on our success in this area. Now, with that said, I believe it's time to hear our very first witness testimony.
Absolutely. So without further ado, here is our first account.
My name is Elena Vasquez, and I'm a marine biologist who has spent the last 15 years studying deep-sea ecosystems. What I'm about to tell you happened 3 months ago, during a routine research dive off the coast of the Mariana Trench. I've debated whether to share this story, knowing how it sounds, but the implications are too significant to keep to myself. I was piloting the submersible Nereid 7, a state-of-the-art deep-sea exploration vehicle, at a depth of approximately 8,200 meters. My mission was to collect samples from a newly discovered hydrothermal vent field that our sonar had detected the previous week. The descent had been routine. Darkness enveloping us as we passed through the twilight zone. Bioluminescent creatures drifting past like living stars. The pressure readings were normal, all systems functioning perfectly. As we approached the target coordinates, something appeared on our external cameras that shouldn't have been there. At first, I thought it was a geological formation, a series of perfectly geometric structures rising from the abyssal plain. But as we drew closer, the artificial lighting revealed something that made my blood run cold with excitement and terror. These weren't natural formations, they were buildings. Massive crystalline structures stretched across the seafloor in organized patterns that suggested urban planning on a scale I'd never imagined possible at such depth. The architecture was unlike anything human. Tall, spiraling towers that seemed to bend light around them, connected by graceful bridges that defied conventional engineering. The entire complex pulsed with a soft blue-green luminescence that had nothing to do with bioluminescence as I understood it. The scale was overwhelming. The smallest structures were the size of office buildings, while the largest towers stretched upward until they disappeared into the darkness above our lights. Intricate patterns were carved into every surface, symbols that seemed to shift and change when I wasn't looking directly at them. Gardens of what looked like coral formations surrounded the buildings, but these too moved with an intelligence that made my skin crawl. I immediately began recording everything, my hands shaking as I operated the camera controls. The structures appeared to be made of some kind of translucent material that shifted between solid and ethereal, like crystallized water that refused to behave according to physics. As we descended further, I could see movement within the buildings, shadows passing behind the translucent walls, suggesting inhabitants. The temperature readings from our external sensors were inexplicable. Despite being in the deep ocean, where temperatures hover just above freezing, the area around the structures registered significantly warmer. Not hot enough to damage our equipment, but warm enough to suggest an active energy source, far more sophisticated than the hydrothermal vents. That's when I saw them. Beings emerged from what appeared to be doorways in the largest structure. They moved with fluid grace through the water, their forms humanoid but elongated, with limbs that seemed to flow rather than articulate at joints. Their skin, if it could be called skin, was semi-transparent and seemed to contain the same bioluminescent quality as their architecture. They were beautiful and terrifying in equal measure, standing nearly 3 meters tall, with features that suggested both aquatic adaptation and intelligence, far beyond human understanding. Several of these beings approached our submersible, and I felt a presence in my mind, not words, but concepts flowing directly into my consciousness. They were ancient, older than human civilization, older than humanity itself. They had been waiting in the deep places of the earth, tending to something precious, something vital to the continuation of life on our planet. Through this telepathic communication, I learned that they were the guardians of what they called the life current, a network of energy that flows through the ocean depths, connecting all living things on Earth. The hydrothermal vents weren't just geological features, they were nodes in this vast biological network, carefully maintained by these beings for millions of years. They showed me visions of the network as they saw it, streams of living energy connecting every ocean, every sea, every drop of water on the planet. I could see the currents flowing through microscopic organisms, through fish, through whales, through the water itself. It was a circulatory system for the entire planet, and they were its physicians, its caretakers. But something was wrong. The network was failing, disrupted by human activity on the surface. The plastic pollution, the industrial fishing, the warming waters, all of it was severing connections in this ancient system. They had been trying to repair the damage, but they were losing the battle. The being who seemed to be their leader, distinguished by more complex patterns of light flowing through its form, showed me visions of what would happen if the life current failed completely. I saw oceans dying, weather patterns collapsing, and ultimately the slow extinction of most life on Earth. But they also showed me hope, images of humans working with them to restore the network, to heal the damage we had unknowingly caused. They gave me something, a small crystalline device that felt warm in my hands, even through the submersible's mechanical arms. They called it a bridge, explaining that it would allow continued communication between our species. But there was a condition. I had to prove that humanity was ready for this knowledge, that we could be trusted with the responsibility of guardianship rather than destruction. As suddenly as the encounter had begun, it ended. The beings retreated to their city, and the structures themselves began to fade, becoming translucent and then invisible entirely. My instruments showed nothing but empty seafloor and the hydrothermal vents we had originally come to study. I surfaced with my samples and the crystal device, which continued to pulse with that same blue-green light. When I tried to show the recordings to my colleagues, the footage showed only standard deep-sea terrain. Every camera, every sensor, all had recorded a completely normal dive to a completely normal vent field. Only the crystal remained as proof, hidden now in a secure location in my home. Sometimes late at night, it grows brighter, and I feel that presence again in my mind. They're still there, still working, still hoping that humanity will evolve enough to join them in their mission. The device has begun showing me things, other locations where the network is strong, places where I might find evidence that others would accept. But I'm terrified of what that acceptance might mean, terrified of the responsibility they want to place on our species. Every night since the encounter, I dream of that underwater city. I see it thriving, see the beings tending to vast gardens of living energy, see them working tirelessly to maintain the balance that keeps our planet alive. And every morning I wake up knowing that somewhere in the deepest parts of our oceans. They're still down there, still waiting for us to prove ourselves worthy of their trust. I know how this sounds. I know it contradicts everything we think we know about deep sea life and physics. But I also know what I experienced, what I continue to experience every time the crystal pulses with that otherworldly light. We are not alone on this planet. We never have been. And the future of every living thing may depend on whether we can learn to listen to the guardians who have been protecting us from the depth since long before we took our first steps on land. The question that haunts me now is simple. Are we worthy of their trust? Or will we destroy the very system that has sustained life on Earth for millions of years? The answer lies not in the depths of the ocean, but in the depths of human nature itself.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. I'm Josh. For this one, I'll be looking at things, from the science side. The facts, the data, what we can measure in the account we've got.
And I'm Sara. My perspective comes more from, acknowledging experiences that push boundaries. Things that maybe science can't quite explain yet, but feel profoundly real to the person involved. Parapsychology, personal testimony, that sort of angle.
Right. Because today, we're dived into something, it's pretty staggering. We have a first-hand testimony from a marine biologist, 15 years experience. And she recounts this encounter deep in the Mariana Trench area that it challenges everything.
It really does. And this isn't some vague report. It's her personal story, what happened to her down there, someone who knows that environment intimately.
So our plan for this fruit dive is simple. We're going to carefully unpack every bit of this testimony from Dr. Elena Vasquez. We'll lay out what she says she saw, what she experienced.
Yeah, looking at it from both angles. The scientific plausibility, or lack thereof, perhaps.
And the weight of the experience itself. What does it mean if it happened, even if we can't immediately fit it into our current boxes?
Exactly. It's going to be quite a journey, I think.
Okay, so let's start setting the scene. Elena Vasquez, as I said, marine biologist, 15 years studying deep-sea ecosystems. This is her world.
She's not a casual observer. She's a specialist in these extreme places most people can barely imagine. So her baseline for weird is probably already pretty high,
Good point. So the event itself happened about 3 months before she gave this testimony. It was during what she describes as a routine research dive.
Routine being the key word there.
Yep. Location. Off the coast of the Mariana Trench, one of the absolute deepest spots on the planet. She was piloting the Nereid 7 submersible.
Which is described as a pretty advanced piece of kit, right? Built for these depths.
Exactly. State-of-the-art. Designed for thousands of meters down, extreme pressure. She wasn't in some experimental craft. The depth she gives is around 18,200 meters.
Okay.
Think about that. That's over 26,000 feet, almost 5 miles straight down.
Just incredible pressure, total darkness, an environment fundamentally alien to us.
Her specific mission for that dive was straightforward science. Collect samples from a newly discovered hydrothermal vent field.
Which, even finding a new vent field is exciting science in itself. These are unique ecosystems, life based on chemosynthesis, not photosynthesis.
Right. So everything about the mission setup was, normal scientific exploration. The descent, she reports, was completely routine.
No warning signs.
None. Just sinking into the darkness, past the twilight zone, seeing the usual bioluminescent flashes.
Yeah.
She described them like living stars. All the submersible systems were green, pressure readings normal.
Everything by the book. A standard day at the office, just an office 5 miles underwater.
Exactly. Until it wasn't. As she got close to the target coordinates, where she expected to see the rock formations, the chimneys of the hydrothermal vents, something else appeared on the external cameras. Something big. Something that shouldn't have been there.
Okay, so first thought must be geology, right? Weird rock formations, undersea mountains.
That was her immediate reaction, yes.
Yeah.
That's the only logical explanation down there. But then she got closer. She turned on the submersible's main lights for a better look.
Yeah.
And it wasn't rock. It wasn't natural formations, she says. They were buildings.
Buildings, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Just try to process that moment. Your instruments, your eyes, telling you there's architecture, something artificial where nothing artificial could possibly be.
Yeah, the cognitive dissonance must have been overwhelming. She describes seeing massive structures, crystalline structures, spread out on the seafloor.
Crystalline. Like quartz or...
She describes it as almost like crystallized water, but defying physics. We'll get more into the material later.
Yeah.
But the key thing initially was the layout. They were just random blocks.
No.
No, she said they were arranged in organized patterns. She actually used the term urban planning.
Urban planning.
Yeah.
At 8,200 meters, that implies intelligence, design, a society.
On a scale she called unimaginable for that depth. And the architecture itself was totally alien. Nothing like human construction.
So, what did it look like?
Tall, spiraling towers. She said they seemed to shimmer, almost bend the light around them. Graceful bridges connecting different structures in ways that seemed to defy engineering as we know it.
Bending light and defying engineering. That suggests, either materials or physics we just don't understand.
And the whole city, this complex, it pulsed with a soft, blue-green light.
Okay, bioluminescence is common down there, right?
It is, but she was very clear. This wasn't the kind of bioluminescence she knew from deep-sea creatures. This light seemed inherent to the structures themselves, an internal luminescence.
So not a chemical reaction in an organism, but part of the buildings. Or their power source, maybe?
Possibly.
Yeah.
And the scale. She estimated the smallest buildings were the size of typical office blocks on the surface.
Okay, that's already huge for that depth.
But the largest ones, they stretched upwards, she said, disappearing into the blackness above, beyond the reach of their own light.
Towers so vast, they vanish into the abyss above you. That's hard to even picture. Mind-boggling scale.
And she described intricate details carved into all the surfaces, patterns everywhere. But here's a really weird detail.
Go on.
She said the symbols, the patterns, seemed to shift or change when she wasn't looking directly at them, like in her peripheral vision.
Whoa, okay, that's entering seriously strange territory. Shifting symbols that react to observation, that could be physics, material science, or something interacting with consciousness itself. Very anomalous.
And there was more. Around the buildings, she saw things that looked like gardens, like coral formations.
Coral. At that depth, some types exist, but...
But she said these moved. They moved with a kind of intelligence that she found deeply unsettling.
Intelligent, moving, coral-like structures. So are we talking flora, fauna, or something else entirely? Something blurring the lines?
It sounds like it. Maybe life forms integrated into the environment or the architecture itself. Something completely outside our biological categories.
Okay, this city sounds less like ruins and more like a living, or at least active, place.
Definitely active. As she kept observing, she noticed more anomalies. The material itself, these crystalline structures.
Yeah, you mentioned that, like crystallized water.
Yes, but she described it as shifting, sometimes seeming solid, sometimes almost ethereal, translucent, like it wasn't entirely fixed in a physical state we'd recognize.
A substance that defies normal states of matter. Solid, but not solid. That points to something fundamentally different from terrestrial materials.
And then came the confirmation it wasn't abandoned. She saw movement inside the buildings, shadows passing behind those translucent walls.
Inhabitants. Oh, wow. The city was occupied.
Yes. And there was a measurable physical anomaly, too, something her instruments could detect. Temperature.
Temperature. How so?
The water immediately around these structures was significantly warmer than the surrounding ocean. The deep ocean down there is near freezing, maybe 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. But near the buildings, it was noticeably warmer. Not dangerously hot for the sub, but a clear, localized heat signature. Much more sophisticated and contained than the chaotic heat from a natural hydrothermal vent.
Okay, that is a critical piece of data. A measurable physical effect. It suggests an active energy source powering this place, generating heat deliberately. It grounds the observation a bit more in physics we can measure, even if the source is unknown.
And it was right around then, as she's processing all this, the impossible architecture, the light, the movement, the heat, that's when they appeared. Beings, emerging from openings, like doorways, in the largest structure she could see.
The builders. The inhabitants. She saw them.
She did. She described their movement first. Incredibly fluid, graceful through the water, like they were perfectly evolved for it.
Not swimming like us, but moving naturally within their environment.
Exactly. Their forms were, humanoid in basic layout torso. Limbs, head, but very elongated. And their limbs didn't seem to bend at sharp joints like ours. They seemed to flow almost like liquid mercury, she described it.
Wow. Flowing limbs. Truly aquatic adaptation, perhaps, or something else entirely.
Their skin, or maybe it was an outer layer, was semi-transparent and had the same internal, soft, blue-green glow as the buildings.
Glowing from within, like their city, a connection there, and their size.
She estimated they were nearly 3 meters tall.
3 meters, that's almost 10 feet tall. Beautiful and terrifying, she said.
That's the phrase she used, yes. An overwhelming presence. Their whole appearance suggested to her immense aquatic adaptation, but also an intelligence far beyond anything human.
So these massive, glowing, fluid beings emerge. What did they do?
Several of them approached her submersible, just glided towards it through the water.
Okay, my heart would be pounding out of my chest right then.
I can only imagine. But this is where the nature of the encounter shifted dramatically. It went from observation to interaction, but not in the way we'd expect.
Wow.
She didn't hear anything. No sounds through the hall, no visual signals she could interpret. Instead, she felt a presence inside her mind.
Telepathy.
She was very specific, not words. She didn't hear words in her head. It was more like concepts, understanding, information just flowing directly into her consciousness.
Ah, okay. That resonates with many experiencer accounts. Direct consciousness to consciousness transfer. Bypassing language, bypassing normal senses. It's a profound, often overwhelming form of communication, if that's what it was.
And through this mental connection, she started receiving information from them about who they were.
What did they convey?
That they were ancient, unimaginably ancient, older than human civilization, older than Homo sapiens, potentially.
Older than humanity itself.
That they had always been here, in the deep places of the earth, tending to something vital, precious.
Guardians. Hidden guardians of something fundamental to the planet. Natives of the deep earth, not visitors.
Exactly. They identified themselves as guardians of something they called the life current.
The life current. What did she understand that to be?
She perceived it, through their communication, as a vast network of energy, flowing through all the oceans, connecting all living things on the planet, from the surface down to the deepest trenches, like an energetic web.
A planetary bioenergy grid. Wow. That's a completely different way of looking at life on Earth. Not just individual organisms, but an interconnected system of energy.
And those hydrothermal vents, the ones she was originally there to study.
Yeah, what about them?
They weren't just geological accidents, according to the beings. They were crucial points, nodes, in this huge life current network.
Like junction boxes? Or vital organs in this energy system?
Something like that. And these beings had been maintaining them, tending to these nodes for millions of years.
So the vents we can see and study are actually interface points for a hidden planetary system managed by these ancient beings. That gives the known science a completely new context, a potentially staggering one.
They showed her visions, mentally, of how they see this network. Streams of living energy, she described it, weaving through oceans, seas, connecting every drop of water, flowing through plankton, fish, whales, the water itself.
A circulatory system for the planet.
That's the exact analogy they gave her, a planetary circulatory system. And they were its physicians, its caretakers, keeping it healthy.
An incredible concept. The Earth as a single integrated organism with an energy flow, and these beings as its ancient tenders. That reframes, well, everything.
But the reason for the contact, the core message they needed to convey, was urgent. This system, the life current, it's failing.
Failing.
Why? They were unambiguous. The cause was disruption from human activity on the surface. Our actions are damaging this fundamental planetary system.
Pollution. What specifically?
They showed her, or conveyed, specific impacts: plastic pollution, physically choking the pathways, industrial overfishing, decimating key parts of the web, and warming ocean waters, causing systemic stress and severing connections.
So the environmental crises we know about plastics, fishing, climate change, they aren't just affecting surface ecosystems or individual species. They're actually damaging the planet's fundamental energetic circulatory system, according to these beings.
That's what they conveyed. It adds a whole new terrifying dimension to our impact. It's not just ecological damage. It's like we're giving the planet a massive heart attack or severing its arteries.
And these beings, the guardians.
They told her they've been trying desperately to repair the damage, working constantly in the deep to counteract our effects, but they're losing.
Losing the battle. This ancient, powerful civilization is struggling to mend what our relatively young surface-dwelling species is breaking. That's sobering and tragic.
They showed her what happens if the life current fails completely. Visions of oceans becoming barren, dead zones expanding. weather patterns collapsing into chaos, a slow, creeping extinction event wiping out most life on Earth.
A direct consequence of the network collapsing, not just theoretical ecological models, but a vision of the mechanism of collapse.
But it wasn't all doom. They also showed her another possibility, a vision of hope.
Okay, what was that?
Images of humans working with them. Humanity understanding the life current, understanding the damage, and collaborating with these beings to restore the network, to heal the planet.
Collaboration. A partnership between surface and deep dwellers, between species. A chance for us to mature, to become part of the solution. That's powerful.
And then, after conveying all this, they offered something physical. One of the beings extended something towards the submersible.
What was it?
A small device, crystalline, like the city. Elena used the submersible's manipulator arms to retrieve it. She said she could feel a warmth emanating from it, even through the thick metal arms.
Wow. A tangible object? Proof. Or at least an artifact. This takes it beyond just a vision or a mental message.
They call this device a bridge.
A bridge? For what?
For continued communication between their species deep below and ours on the surface.
An offer of ongoing contact. A tool to facilitate understanding, maybe even coordination.
That seems to be the implication. But there was a condition, a very significant one.
Ah, what was the catch?
The gift, the bridge, the potential for collaboration. It was all conditional on Elena and, through her, humanity, proving something.
Proving what?
Proving we're ready. Ready for this knowledge. Ready to be trusted. Trusted to act as guardians alongside them, not just continue as destroyers.
Yeah.
Prove we can handle the responsibility that comes with understanding the life current.
So it's a test. The communication channel is open, but we have to demonstrate a fundamental shift. Become responsible planetary citizens, essentially. That's a huge ask.
Immense. And right after conveying this condition, this challenge, the encounter just ended. Abruptly.
Oh.
The beings simply retreated back into the large structure, and then the city itself began to fade, became translucent, shimmered, and then vanished. Gone.
Vanished, like just blinked out of existence.
Yeah.
Or turned invisible.
Her description sounds more like it faded from reality somehow, leaving her alone again in the crushing darkness, staring at nothing.
Just the submersible lights hitting empty water and the seafloor.
Exactly. And here's the kicker. The part that makes this so difficult from a scientific standpoint. She immediately checks her instruments, her sensor logs. Nothing. All readings were normal for the depths and location. The sonar showed empty seafloor. Temperature sensors showed the expected near-freezing water. No trace of the massive city, the heat anomaly, nothing. It was like it had never been there.
Okay, wow. So the objective instruments recorded nothing unusual at all during the entire encounter.
Apparently not. It's the core scientific puzzle here. Did their technology somehow cloak them from her sensors? Did the event happen partly outside normal physical detection? Was it somehow localized primarily to her consciousness, despite the physical interaction with the bridge?
Or did they deliberately wipe the instrumental record? If they can manipulate energy and maybe even matter like that, perhaps they can manipulate sensor data too. It leaves you with profound questions about the nature of the phenomenon itself.
So she ascends, returns to the surface. She has her geological samples from the vent field she eventually found nearby, and she has this small, warm, pulsing, crystalline device.
The bridge.
The bridge. But when she gets back, debriefs, shares her incredible story, and tries to show the dive recordings as proof.
Let me guess. The recordings were normal.
Completely normal. Footage from every external camera, data from every sensor, it all showed a standard, uneventful dive to a hydrothermal vent field and back. No city, no beings, nothing.
So absolutely no objective, shareable proof, only her testimony and...
And the crystal, the only tangible thing that remained from the encounter. Pulsing with that soft, blue-green light. She hid it, she says. Kept it in a secure, private location.
The single artifact, the anchor point for an experience that otherwise evaporated from the official record, that crystal becomes incredibly important then.
Hugely important. And for Lena, the experience didn't really end when the city vanished. It's ongoing.
How so? Through the crystal?
Yes. She says that sometimes, often late at night, the crystal grows brighter. And when it does, she feels that presence again, that mental connection, that resonance.
The bridge is working. Communication, or at least connection, is still possible. They're still reaching out, or perceptible.
That's her reality now. She feels they're still down there, still doing their work, tending the life current, and still hoping, waiting for humanity to change.
Still holding out hope that we can evolve, become partners instead of threats. They haven't given up. That's strangely comforting in a way.
And the crystal, the bridge, it does more than just pulse. Sometimes, she says, it shows her things, images in her mind,
Shows her what?
like a form of mental map, other locations on the planet, places where the life current network is particularly strong or perhaps where other nodes exist, places where maybe, just maybe, some kind of verifiable evidence might be found.
So the crystal isn't just a communication device, it's potentially a guide, offering clues for independent verification. That could be huge if someone could follow up on it. It moves the story beyond just her personal experience.
Potentially. But Elena herself,
Her.
she's terrified.
Terrified of the beings.
Not exactly.
Yeah.
Terrified by the implications, by the sheer weight of the knowledge she carries. Terrified of what it would mean for humanity if this were widely accepted. The responsibility.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's an almost unbearable burden for one person.
Yeah.
Knowing the stakes, knowing this cosmic secret, knowing the future might depend on whether humanity listens.
She says she dreams about it constantly, every night. She dreams she's back in the underwater city.
Reliving it.
Not just reliving the encounter. She
Right.
sees the city as vibrant, active. She sees the beings working, tending these vast fields or gardens of living energy, trying to maintain the balance.
So the dream reinforces the reality of it for her, a constant reminder of what's happening unseen below.
And she wakes up every morning with this certainty. They're down there, waiting, watching, hoping we prove ourselves worthy.
What a way to live, carrying that knowledge every single day.
And she's fully aware of how unbelievable it sounds. She's a scientist. She knows this contradicts known physics, known biology, everything we think we know about the deep ocean.
That internal conflict must be intense, the trained skeptic versus the undeniable personal experience. For her to hold on to the story so strongly, the experience itself must have been utterly convincing on a fundamental level, regardless of the lack of instrument data.
Exactly. The objective evidence says no. Her subjective reality screams yes.
And it seems the subjective reality, backed by the crystal, is what defines her truth now.
The core takeaway for her, the absolute truth she now operates under, is simple but universe-shattering. She states it plainly in her testimony, we are not alone on this planet. We never have been.
If that's true, it changes everything. Our history, our place in the cosmos, our understanding of life itself.
And according to her testimony, and the message from these deep-sea guardians, the stakes couldn't be higher. The actual future of life on Earth might depend on us listening, on us understanding this life current, and fundamentally changing our behavior.
Our survival potentially linked to acknowledging and collaborating with a civilization hidden in the abyss. It's almost mythological, but presented as stark reality.
So let's just recap what we're left with. An experienced marine biologist reports encountering an ancient technologically advanced city deep in the ocean,
Inhabited by tall, luminous, seemingly telepathic beings.
who claim to be guardians of a planetary energy network called the Life Current, which connects all life.
A network they say is failing due to human activity, pollution, fishing, climate change.
They issue a dire warning about the consequences, but also offer hope through collaboration.
And they leave behind a physical artifact, a crystalline bridge for communication.
Yet, crucially, all instrumental recordings of the dive show absolutely nothing out of the ordinary.
Right. The profound personal experience, the artifact, versus the complete lack of objective, verifiable data in the dive logs, that's the central enigma.
It leaves us, and you listening, facing the same monumental question, the same challenge these beings apparently posed to Elena. Is humanity ready for this?
Ready for the knowledge, ready for the responsibility of understanding our true impact, understanding the planet as this interconnected system. Can we shift from destruction to guardianship?
Elena's testimony ends, essentially, by putting that question directly to us. She asks, reflecting their challenge, are we worthy of their trust, or will we destroy the very system that has sustained life on Earth for millions of years?
It's a heavy question, and she concludes that the answer isn't hidden down there with them.
Right. She says the answer lies not in the depths of the ocean, but in the depths of human nature itself.
Wow. That really lands, doesn't it? Leaves you thinking.
It really does. This account, Elena Vasquez's testimony, it opens up so much. Questions about what else might be hidden on our own planet, the nature of consciousness, the real scale of our environmental impact, and maybe, just maybe, our potential future. Definitely more for us all to ponder. And that's a wrap on our very first Living Witness episode. We've journeyed through an astonishing account that stretches the limits of what we thought possible.
Next week, we bring you another story that will shake your foundations and, of course, our deep dive for subscribers.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate, review, and share Living Witness. It helps others find us, builds our community, and ensures more incredible testimonies get the spotlight they deserve.
Thanks for listening, for questioning, and for keeping an open mind.
Stay open to the unknown and join us next Monday for more. Plus, members, don't miss Friday's exclusive episode. Take care and good night.